Today, Ian, Dwayne, and I are tier ranking the top 48 wide receivers for 2026 fantasy football. But the catch is that we all have to come to a conclusion together, which might be difficult, as you can see here.
My proposal, though, guys, I think we should move Luther Burden to the end of tier 4 because that gives us a chance to make this beautiful tier 5 of the number 1 unks. We can have Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, and Terry McLaurin. That fits out great. They all have good projections.
One of these
They're
two,
all talented guys,
of these two,
old.
Ian,
Look
has
them,
to go down.
Old.
Welcome back to the Fantasy Live Show, going through the rankings battle wide receiver edition today. Kendall Valenzuela, Dwain McFarland, Ian Hartitz, the three of us back with you again. How you guys doing today? Ian, how's it going?
It's a great day to be Craig, K-Dog. Let's talk some wide receivers.
There we go. Dwayne, same with you. All good?
Absolutely. All good. Been diving into the projections some more this morning. So yeah, pumped about our convo.
There we go. All right. Well, we're going to go through rankings battle wide receiver edition. We did running backs before, which you guys should go and check out. All of our rankings are updated at fantasylife.com. So that's where you can go and see where all the magic happens. And we're going to get into it right here by locking it in. We're going to go through our 1 through 12 ranked wide receivers, and we're going to see who we're going to lock it in, presented by Xfinity's 5-year price guarantee. Feels like the first tier, I might just throw it out there, might be easier, but we can just kind of go and depend on how we like these ordered. Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, JSN, Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson are the first 6 we're going to talk about for tier 1, you guys, and then Rashee Rice, Drake London, Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins, AJ Brown, George Pickens. For tier, it feels like there's a top 3, and like I was just saying, maybe we have to decide on what it's going to look like, but the top 3 always feels like we're going to be talking about, Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, JSN. What do you guys think?
Does it have to be in that order?
Absolutely.
Could JSN be
No.
1? Are we all sleeping on him?
We can have JSN. What, Dwayne? Do you want JSN 1? As a Seahawks fan, I'd love that.
Well, we have him consensus 3 in our ranks today on the site. So, I would say we need to go change that. But I think it's the right tier. I really do think you can choose them in any order that you want, like Chase, Nacua, JSN, all elite talents. JSN, not as heavy of a pass offense, but he's the only game in town. Jamar Chase has T. Higgins, but it is a pass heavy offense. And then Puka Nacua, we know he's awesome and he gets to play with Sean McVay. So, these are all offenses that can score enough points. There aren't concerns with these players. We just need them to be healthy. And I think they clearly are the top tier. But to Ian's point, you could put them in, I really would not have a problem with people putting them in any order they wanted.
Ian, would you put that order together?
3. I'm just wondering, if we had to say, who has the best chance at 200 targets, it's probably JSN. I think we're past the point where we have to be worrying about Sam Darnold. I have him wide receiver 3. I get it. But I'm just wondering out loud, Kendall, maybe we're freaking wrong. All right. Us alleged fantasy experts don't always have everything all figured out.
It's not like anything has changed in that offense either, except for Clint Kubiak going away. They get a new offensive coordinator in town, but it's going to be Sam Darnold. It's going to be Sam Darnold focusing on JSN, and then it's going to be everyone else. I know that they're spending a lot more money in that wide receiver room, bringing Rashid Shaheed back and all that good stuff. But I'm kind of with you, Ian. Maybe I need to move them up my rankings too. So are we good with JSN? JSN, Chase, Puka? Is that how we want to do it?
Put them 3. It's okay, but I thought it was worthy of debate,
All right. So how does
a debate.
tier?
They're the only 3 players that project for 150 plus targets in the projection model, and they're all close. So it really could finish any order. But I do agree with Ian. If there is one offense where it's it could be 200, the thing the model's taking into account, right, is more passing attempts for the Bengals, right? And so Jamar Chase has a slight lead in targets, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was flipped.
Is there a world where you're worried, Dwayne?
Dwayne's always hey, it's the projection model. And it's Dwayne, those are your projections. You can just say my projections. You don't have to blame the model. It's you. All right. You are the model.
Well, yeah, I'm not blaming the model, but there's definitely multiple components of it that are a model, right? There are things that we have to input, but then it's modeling off of that. So yes.
Is there any worry to you, Dwayne, about the new offensive coordinator? Kind of how we talk about, the Eagles have to get better, right? But it's, Jalen Hurts is 5th offensive coordinator in 5 years. Are you worried at all about the Seahawks with that new OC?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit of a question mark, but I just think that JSN is so good. Like, I don't envision, even though the new coordinator doesn't have play calling experience, I don't envision him changing a lot of what works. And I just don't see another player on the team that's good enough to really challenge JSN. So I'm not too worried about it. I think it'll just come down to Sam Darnold knows that JSN is out there and he's going to keep throwing him the football no matter what the play caller does.
Our next three guys in the rankings, and I'll lump them together and see if you guys want all of them in tier 2 or if you think there's a break here. But it is Ian, Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. Across the board, we're all consensus in the same spot, 4, 5, and 6 for ARSB, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. Do you believe they should all be in tier 2? Do you think there's a break with Justin Jefferson and the question marks at quarterback? Where are you at with these guys?
I think they're tier 2, and then we'll start another tier 3 for kind of the wide receiver 7 and on. I do look at it though, and just it's setting up so nicely for Justin Jefferson, just stepping back up and being that ace wide receiver 1. I mean, it could be as early as week 2 where we're like, oh, Justin Jefferson got a quarterback upgrade. What were we doing ranking even 5 guys ahead of this dude? So only need to go back 1 year when we had Jetta still as a legit, top 2, top 3 wide receivers. So, looking at CD, he's got Pickens in town, obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown, someone that's just perennially been this top 5 player, and he's awesome and everything. But I think we all agree like Justin Jefferson has a case for the best real life wide receiver. And wide receiver 6, Dwayne, it feels low. It does.
Yeah. And it's only the question of what happened last year and then just the questions around Kyler Murray, for the last 2 to 3 seasons. He just hasn't had the same ceiling as a passer, but Kevin O'Connell has cracked the code for every quarterback not named JJ McCarthy. I mean, even freaking Carson Wentz went out there and Justin Jefferson played a lot better in the games with Wentz throwing 300 yards per game. And then, you had the games with McCarthy who, got better as the year went on. So if Kevin O'Connell can unlock Nick Mullins and Carson Wentz, he could probably unlock Kyler Murray. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
I do think that of the players in this tier, Lamb and Jefferson are the ones that could still finish as wide receiver 1 overall, but I would give a slight edge to Justin Jefferson, just slightly more questions. But I do agree that this is the tier because I think we start getting into the next level of players. And while we like them all, to Ian's point, Justin Jefferson's so talented. If it does go perfectly for him, he's a guy that could come up with 1,700 yards and 15 touchdowns. Right. And we wouldn't be necessarily surprised. It would be an outlier season, but we'd be like, oh, that makes sense. And Justin Jefferson in that scenario would be the wide receiver 1 in fantasy.
Because like you said, it can't get worse from last season, right? Or we can hope not. Catchable target rate fell from 74% to 66%. But like you guys both said, still in his prime with Justin Jefferson, 27 years old. He's elite. So I like him in this tier, which brings us to, though, that tier break where I'm going to throw these names at you. And this is where we have them in the rankings. But where would you rank these guys in their tiers? Rashee Rice, Drake London, Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins. I'll throw in AJ Brown. So Rice, London, Neighbors, Collins, Brown. Starting with this tier 3, who belongs there?
Well, I think we consensus have Rice. Well, Ian and I have, so I think it's a question for you, Kendall. Ian and I both have Rashee Rice at 7. Look, anytime this man's been healthy and on the field with Patrick Mahomes in a full-time role, he's just put up fantasy points. So does he have the ceiling that Justin Jefferson does? No, because he doesn't catch the targets down the field. Most of it's low average depth of target stuff, but he's still it's just easy money taking Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
The only question I have about him, Kendall, is could we please just chill out with the off-field stuff? Let's not have another off-field incident, before the season starts. So if you wanted to knock Rashee Rice, I feel that's your reason. Or if you just are really concerned that Patrick Mahomes is not going to be ready for the first part of the season, which we're docking him 1.5 games, Mahomes right now, but we're pretty much assuming that he's going to be ready to roll. So it's baked into the projections, which also agree with this. So I'm good with Rashee Rice here, Kendall, but you've got Rashee Rice at 9. So I don't know if you have other factors besides the ones I name as to why we would put him lower.
No, it was honestly those two things. And I've been moving him up slowly as the offseason goes on. But it's a Patrick Mahomes question, which we know he's superhero, Superman, whatever you want to call him. We expect him to be ready for week 1. And it's the personal conduct policy. But he's not right now facing a suspension for anything that he's done in the offseason. So we've seen him. He's averaged 18 points per game over the last 3 years in games where he's had a 60% route participation rate or higher. So we know that there's this ceiling that we just want to see him reach in a full game with no suspensions, hopefully no injuries. injuries. So I'm good putting him there in that tier 3. And like I said, I'm probably going to move him up as the offseason goes on from 9. But that leaves us Drake London, Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins. Ian, do you think all of these guys deserve to be in this tier, or do you like some above the others?
I think that's the tier. I would have it as Nico, probably London, AJB,
Okay.
Neighbors. Like, there's at least one red flag for everyone here, okay? And I'm with you guys with Rashid Rice being the wide receiver 7. He was wide receiver 5 last season, but I understand it's not the most, ethical means of picking up fantasy points. A lot of screens. They actually use him as kind of like this goal line rusher from time to time as well. Andy Reid always getting wonky once they're inside the 5-yard line. So I understand that Rashid Rice should not be in the, top 10 real life wide receiver conversation, but we're talking fantasy. So it is what it is. Nico, I have the fewest questions about relative to these other guys. He's been a little bit banged up. CJ Stroud's been a little bit up and down, but still the undisputed number 1 wide receiver in this offense. Drake London, my God, he had like 3 wide receiver 1 overall weeks in like a 4-week stretch, but obviously that was with Michael Penix. Now maybe we have old man Tua. I know he's not that old, but the way he plays feels like he's like 38 at this point. Patriots wide receiver 1, AJ Brown, and then Malik Neighbors coming off a knee injury where it's like every single update we get on it seems to hint that again, he's not going to be ready for week 1. That said, if he is, Malik Neighbors could be at the top of this. So I think this is the comfortable tier. I feel most confident. Like, if I had to pick 2 guys from it, it'd be Rice and Nico, but you can certainly see the path to success for the other guys.
Dwayne?
Yeah, I'm good with this order. Like, because we're talking about this tier, like London's been a top 13 fantasy wide receiver the last 2 years. We have some questions about quarterback, but we have 2 guys there. Penix will eventually be back. So I'm fine with London. I agree with Ian. Like, Nico Collins, actually, out of all the guys here, besides Malik Neighbors, if he's healthy, he's got a really good ceiling. Like, Nico in a full healthy year, just getting peppered with targets, doesn't have a lot of target competition. We've got a question around Jaden Higgins. We've got Tank Dell coming back from injury. Like, he could make some noise, but it pretty clearly feels like this is Nico's house as far as the wide receivers go. I think the real question, and I like to call out on AJB, like if he lands, with the Patriots, which is like where the money's at right now. Yeah, maybe we can just say when. Like, you're going to be playing with a quarterback that, averaged, 30, 40 yards more passing per game last year than Jalen Hurts. And Drake May had no one. Now, the Patriots had an easy schedule, but I just, my imagination kind of goes wild when I think of Drake May playing with a hyper-motivated A.J. Brown. And so I really like having him in this tier. I think the big question, Ian and Kendall, is if we were to include one more person in this tier, would it be George Pickens? And the main reason why is we do have the Cowboys projected as the number 1 passing offense in the league. There's a tier of them, like the Bengals are in that as well. But Dak is one of the guys that's proven he can handle the modern era of NFL coverages. Like, he knows how to read a defense. They've got the weapons to stretch the field out with Lamb plus him plus Ferguson. They've got a strong run game, good offensive line that was really banged up last year. So I think that's the question. Do we want to put Pickens in this tier, or are we like, last year was really the first year we saw it from Pickens. A ton of it did come on big plays and touchdowns, which can be high variance things. So I could also see an argument for putting Pickens at the top of the next tier.
I
feel
am
like Devontae
kind
Smith
of,
might be the other guy. What about you, Kendall?
I was just going to say, because George Pickens, I like, he averaged 17.1 points per game, finishes the wide receiver 6. He's playing on the franchise tag. People are saying that they're worried about him playing on the tag and like how much effort he's going to give, but I think that's unfair. But I'm more along the side of putting him in tier 4 with, like you said, Devontae Smith, because if we've been talking about Devontae Smith without AJ Brown and how he's going to ascend to new heights, and this is just going to be his offense, like, that's where I think we have to start having conversations about either both of them probably starting tier 4. Ian, what do you think?
I tend to think that if we were going to add another one on tier 3, it would be Devontae Smith, because again, assuming AJ Brown is going to be a member of the Patriots, now Devontae is really the only show in town, with all due respect to Mekhi Lemon and Dontavian Wicks, of course, but look, I just think, Smith versus Pickens, maybe with the extra volume in Dallas, Pickens could wind up messing around and having similar, targets at the end of the season. But I don't know. I just think it looks very, very clean to have this next tier of Olave, Pickens, and Higgins, these guys, and a little bit more split offenses. So again, Smith versus Pickens. Pickens, have them ranked right next to each other. I do think Pickens is a very talented dude in his own right. So we'll see how it goes. I will say, guys, I did research this for the Rams this week, starting to work through my team previews. Last 10 years, there's been 15 instances, okay, of one offense producing multiple top 12 wide receivers in the same season. Cowboys and the Rams managed to do it last season. The Bengals have done it, a lot in recent years. So it does happen 1.5 times per year, but it's also something I'm trying to be a little bit wary of and not necessarily, completely bet on. So that's why I'm just a tad lower with George Pickens in the ranks than some of you guys.
Yeah, and
all right,
it's honestly just where
go ahead, Dwayne.
Just real quick, Kendall, this is just where the projection stuff comes in, because the Cowboys are projected for 263 passing yards per game. It's 214 for the Eagles. So I essentially see Devontae Smith and George Pickens as being very close. I'm fine putting Smith in this tier, but Pickens just plays on a far better passing offense. And that's what ends up leveling these things out. And he's just got this super duper big play ability. So I if it were me, I would put Smith in the next tier down with Pickens, but I'm also okay. I'm okay with having, Smith right there.
Okay, so that levels out our first top 12 wide receivers here with Devontae Smith. We'll put him at the end of tier 3 right there. Again, fantasy football is unpredictable, but your internet price, it does not have to be. Lock in fast, reliable Wi-Fi with Xfinity's 5-year price guarantee. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Restrictions apply. Select plans only, which brings us to the next tier of guys. If we've got Devontae Smith there, then we've kind of already said that George Pickens, Dwayne, is going to start off on tier 4. Let me throw you some others, though. Chris Olave, Tedero McMillan, Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, Luther Burden. Those are all guys I feel like we can talk about going in these next tier 4, tier 5 kind of players. So I'll go ahead and get Pickens here. But who are other guys that deserve to be right alongside Pickens, Dwayne?
Yeah, I think Olave deserves to be here. Even with the arrival of Jordan Tyson, I just think that the Saints are going to be a highly consolidated offense. I think there are questions about Shuck, but I'm at 14, you're at 14, Ian's at 13. So I don't see how we don't have Olave right here in this tier behind Pickens. And then I would say probably Garrett Wilson is where we have the most consensus. Ian's at 16, I'm at 16, you're at 15. He does have new target competition with Kenyon Sadiq and with Omar Cooper Jr., but they could be slower starters as rookies. We'll see what happens with Geno Smith. We'll see Kendall if he writes back. But Geno's shown no willingness to lock onto one guy and just fit the ball into tight windows. And Garrett Wilson, he has that kind of game. He can just really win in small spaces, creates that little bit of separation. Geno's a good timing quarterback. So I think ultimately that's a good fit. Hopefully the Jets aren't so bad that by the end of the year, we're seeing, backup quarterbacks out there that. That's not ideal for Garrett Wilson. The touchdown upside isn't huge, but I still think he's the lead target. It's Garrett Wilson is just a lock for a 25% target share. So, and I think Geno ultimately is an upgrade from what they had last year at quarterback. So, I mean, I'm good with having him here. I don't know. Those are the guys we're most aligned on. Then I think we start getting into conversations with Ted McMillan.
I was just going to say,
I know you're a little lower on him. You're 18. Yeah, I think he's in the convo, but there's definitely questions with the Panthers. None of us like Bryce Young. Sorry, it's not personal, but he's never.
No, it is personal. It is. It's not us. It's him.
I would have T. Higgins right next to George Pickens. I think the parallels between the Cowboys and Bengals are evident. We've seen the wide receiver seasons from T. If you want to dock him an extra half game because of the recurring hamstring issues, okay. But when that dude is out there, again, we expect big things. I'm with you guys on Olave and obviously Garrett Wilson. Shout out the Ohio State Buckeyes. Tedero McMillan is in this tier. Again, kind of like what we're making is the overqualified number 2 wide receivers and great offenses like Pickens and Higgins. And then number 1s and offenses where maybe we have a few more questions going on. So I would also include Zay Flowers. I would include Jalen Waddle in there. And I probably would round things out with Luther Burden. But Burden is where things start getting just a little bit interesting. I know the yards per out run, all these nerdy stats we love to throw out were borderline erotic last season. But, you add a couple more playoff games on, they really do go from elite to, more so in the very good category. So I do think Roma Dunze and Colson Loveland, very, very good in their own rights. If you want to say Burden's going to lead the way, okay, that's how I have him ranked. But when I am going through this list, I mean, Dwayne, I think it's pretty reasonable to say we should be the least surprised if Luther Burden finishes with under 100 targets out of anyone else on this list.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm the highest of us. We're all close. I'm at 17. I think Burden does go in the next tier because of the questions. If we're tiering this, I'm good with putting him next. I'm 17. Ian's 19. You're 19, Kendall.
Yeah.
I'm good on T. Higgins. I'm taking Olave personally over Higgins, but Ian's right. Like it's going to be one of the most pass heavy offense. It's a very close parallel to Pickens. Neither one of those guys have ever been like 25% target share guys, but they catch a lot of touchdowns. They get a lot of yards. So I think that's a really good call out. I don't think Zay Flowers goes in this tier. I think he goes in the next tier. Now, I hope that Declan Doyle like unlocks more, and that I do have, Ian, not the model, I do have the Ravens projected for slightly more passing this year with Doyle, but they still have a dual threat quarterback, right? They've got a defensive minded head coach, so I don't have them straying too far from that. But there is the potential that we get Zay Flowers unlocked a little bit, getting to play like, more from the slot, move around the formation, actually take some more deep shots to him. So I really do like him, but I think Flowers probably belongs in the next tier down. But you could argue the same for Waddle.
What do you think Zay Flowers finished last year? What do you think his final rank in PPR points per game was?
Wide receiver 15. And this, we're doing half PPR. 13. So he was probably
13.
between and half PPR. He's 13.
Zay Flowers from 1,200 yards.
From last
season. But because he had a little bit of a dry spell, which I don't know, maybe losing the 2-time MVP.
That's mainly because he doesn't score touchdowns. That's what people worry about.
Yet, Dwayne.
No, I agree, Ian. I agree. But you are also someone that has said multiple times, like, hey, touchdowns is also a skill. Certain players are better at it than others. So the way I look at Flowers has been wide receiver 36, 36, 11. Like, it's fine. Look, I like Zay Flowers and he projects good. I just like when I think Pickens versus Flowers, I don't know. I think Olave versus Flowers. I feel like they're different players, but I'm
viewing again this tier upside, overqualified number 2 wide receivers, and then these perspective ones, but we have a question. So I'm not saying Flowers is this locked and loaded, no doubt, going to be repeating as a top 13 player, but I have far fewer quarterback questions about Zay Flowers than I do at Tedero McMillan or Garrett Wilson. Honestly, even like Chris Olave, obviously, as good as Tyler Shuck looked down the stretch last season. And, I'm not overly concerned about, 3rd and 4th round wide receivers being added to the fray. My proposal though, guys, I think we should move Luther Burden to the end of tier 4 because that gives us a chance to make this beautiful tier 5 of the number 1 unks. We got Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, and Terry McLaurin. That fits out great. They all have good projections.
One of these
They're
two,
all talented guys,
Ian, has to go down. Old. No, Ian, one of these two, we can't, this doesn't feel right with Flowers and Burden on this tier. Zay Flowers, as I do like him, like you said, but he doesn't have this role near the goal line. I understand that could change this season and he could score more touchdowns, but I think if we're looking at him compared to all these other guys, his ceiling is lower than these top receivers. I know you don't like Tedero McMillan as much, but when I put him next to Wilson, Olave, Higgins, I think one of these two at least has to be in that next tier. Dwayne, what do you think?
I do agree with Ian that aesthetically, it would be pleasing to Ian's point to put all the unks in the next tier. So it's
are we doing it based off aesthetics? Do you want to keep this?
Yeah. Well, look, there is a big enough question around Burden that you could argue, Kendall, yes, he doesn't belong in the tier because all of these other guys have proven it. We're projecting with Burden. Yeah. Right. I mean, and even when you take his screen targets and stuff out, he still had really good underlying numbers, but he hasn't done it and he's in a crowded offense. And, Caleb Williams was good last year, but he wasn't great. And so we're also depending on Caleb taking another step forward. So I think you're both right. I think aesthetically, look at that. Ian's correct. It would be really cool to have this unk tier because we are on those guys. But I think you're actually more correct if we were to say these are tier breaks because we could say Burden, while these other guys have the age question, he has the unproven question. And so they can still go in the same tier. So I will, Kendall, you have control over this. You get to pick.
No. Oh, we'll leave it for the aesthetics.
You guys are,
he's like, you guys correct. Are both right.
Who's right, Dwayne?
He's like,
who's right?
He's making sure we're both happy.
It's I'm settling an argument between my children. Yeah.
Ian, let me ask you this one question before we get to the next tier, which is going to be the older wide receivers. Is there a world when we get closer to July, August, people coming back from these drafts that we look around and we say, what if Luther Burden isn't the top target here? It's still, I know you guys have mentioned it, but it's still Colston Loveland. Roma Dunze is still on this team. Is there a world where we look back and it's mid-October and we say to ourselves, yikes, this is not how we wanted it to go?
Absolutely.
Definitely. I think it's Very possible. We saw last season. I mean, all right, he was learning the playbook. I still don't love Olamide freaking Zacchaeus keeping this dude on the bench for, a good 6-8 weeks of the year. And then even going past that, I mean, look, we had the blow up against the Cowboys and we had the huge game against the 49ers. But there is, I think, a bias in our industry and just in terms of being a fantasy football fan where Luther Burden going bonkers in week 17 to help win a lot of people their championship. I think that matters with their thought process when they're looking ahead to next season. It was the same thing last year where Terry McLaurin had such a great 2024 with Jaden Daniels, but I think he had like one catch in week 17 and there was a lot of pushback. So, he had his contract and injury stuff going on. So, maybe a bad example, but I do think it's an offense where maybe showing a little bit too much confidence in the pecking order. But at the same time, like I watched this dude play football and he just seems to move at a different level. I think Zay Flowers does too. I think Zay Flowers and Luther Burden are two of the most dynamic players at their position in the NFL. And those are bets I want to make, even if I admit, it could be a wrong one.
Okay. I like it. Which brings us to the tier where aesthetically it's going to be pleasing because we're now talking about Davante Adams, Mike Evans, DJ Moore. I'm going to throw in Dwayne, Lad McConkey, Jordan Tyson, and Emeka Egbuka just to like lump some of these guys together. But it sounds like really we're talking Davante Adams, Mike Evans, DJ Moore here.
Well, Mike Evans is at the top, right? He's playing in Kyle Shanahan's offense. We have questions about the rest of the offense. George Kittle's not going to, be playing early in the year. And Shanahan's an A+ schemer, and Mike Evans had a down year last year, but he was playing through a lot of different injuries. Like he was still getting the targets, but the yards per route run, those sort of things weren't there like we're used to historically seeing. He is at an age where like things could start to break down, and the way these receivers work, Kendall, is it's not like we get a ramp off period. Basically, they're just these guys that are like him that have been basically alphas, right, for their entire career. They can play well into their later years. Davante Adams also fits this description, but whenever it hits, like you don't necessarily know it's coming. Like it just vanishes. Yeah. I just have a hard time picturing that happening in this offense with Kyle Shanahan as long as Mike Evans doesn't get hurt.
Ian?
Yeah, I like Evans number one. Again, it's just he's honestly the same thing as Christian McCaffrey, where just if you look at him, you're like, all right, how does this go wrong unless they just get injured? And I recognize guys who have been injured and are getting up there older. They have a better chance of getting injured. I'm not, completely immune to that idea. But again, everything's setting up nicely for Mr. Evans. Same sentiment again with Davante Adams. Mentioned how he joined, obviously, the Cowboy duo as guys who were both top 12 on the same team. Didn't see the Rams actually make that, big addition at wide receiver in the draft. There was a lot of hype about them looking out at Jordan Tyson or Mekhi Lemon at pick 13. Obviously went Ty Simpson instead. I'm cool with DJ Moore in this tier, but Terry McLaurin needs to be in here, guys. This is maybe the week. Like, if you had to look at every team's kind of wide receiver 2 through 5 and even throw their tight end in there, I mean, it might be the softest in Washington. Maybe Brandon Ayuk comes. Is Brandon Ayuk going to play football again? Ever? Like, I feel like there's a percentage chance where that honestly could be an issue. So as things stand right now, I think Terry is fully deserving of being in this list. We like Jaden Daniels a lot. He had one hell of a 2024 season. And look, when we're talking about guys like Chig Okonkwo and Antonio Williams as these potential, issues with getting targets, scary Terry McLaurin, one injury-riddled year removed from having his best season with Jaden Daniels. I think we get a hell of an encore here in 2026.
That would make Terry McLaurin wide receiver 24 on this list, which I honestly don't mind. I'm with you, Ian, because Terry McLaurin, when you look at him, he is someone that could have this bounce back year where he missed, 7 games with injuries, and then Jaden Daniels missed his fair share of games, 10 games last season for extended periods of time. So he seems like someone, though, Dwayne, that's always like not overlooked, but people just look and they say, ugh, Terry McLaurin, like, why do I want to do that to myself? But I do like him adding to this tier.
I don't hate Terry McLaurin. I've never hated Terry McLaurin. Well, personally, but not as a fantasy producer. No, like the big thing is like he's never given us the big boom wide receiver 1 season, right? He's really had he's had 2 good wide receiver 2 seasons, and then he's mostly been a wide receiver 3. But to Ian's point, one of his best years was with Jaden Daniels. So I'm fine with him being in this tier. I'm lower than Ian. We're both at 29, Kendall. Ian has him at 23. We could also call out Ohio State bias, but Ian will, and he'll own that actually. So, I mean, it's not really saying anything new here. But I do agree. Like there's massive questions behind Terry McLaurin, and we like Jaden Daniels. So DJ Moore, I'm also lower. I have 30. You guys are both, well, Ian's right with me at 28. Kendall, you're a little higher at 23, but like when you put it all together, it does look pleasing. And look, if DJ Moore does find his groove, He's playing with Josh Allen. And what else do we have? They don't want to play Dalton Kincaid in a full-time role. Khalil Shakir is an underneath slot wide receiver. They added Skylar Bell, but that was later in the NFL draft. We got Josh Palmer. We got something called a Tyrell Shavers, as Ian would say. So, like, I'm fine with DJ Moore being in. I don't see myself having a ton of DJ Moore, but I could also see myself being wrong in like week 5 and going, why didn't I just take like the wide receiver 1 with Josh Allen? Like, so I know there's some people out there saying he's like a hard fade. I've got him ranked lower, so I'm not going to draft a ton of him, but I don't think he's a hard fade.
I mean, and Ian, just to finish out the aesthetics talk, because we did do this aesthetically pleasing thing, lumping these older guys together, but these guys are like kind of running pure going into 2026. You already mentioned it with Terry McLaurin, not necessarily someone added in this group during the draft that we care about. DJ Moore has Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman still on that team, so that feels nice for him. Devontae Adams, I mean, this was a team that we thought was going to add, one of these wide receivers, really elite, good enough wide receivers, and Devontae Adams has that heavy usage near the goal line that helps him be a good fantasy football asset. George Kittle's banged up. Ricky Pearsall doesn't stay healthy. So like between all 4 of these guys, like they are going into the season with like really great outlooks if we look at the depth charts.
Projection darlings. And again, I think some of the stuff that you have concerns with, it's a little bit tougher to project. So I will say, I'm not sure what that projection model was smoking when it only gave Terry 113 targets. I mean, give me a freaking break over there. But with the DJ Moore stuff, I mean, first of all, having a hard fade on anyone never makes sense. Like if the price is right, then you're going to be clicking them and everything. So I understand being lower on them. I just wonder, like, we had Ben Johnson last year. We've had Caleb Williams. It worked out with Justin Fields. I just don't see the same threat with DJ Moore, who's not that old. It's kind of, he's been in the league a while. He obviously came out of, college as a younger player. So that's why he still doesn't look too out of the picture in this tier. But, he's priced a wide receiver 3. So I don't think you need to have, the super crazy opinion on it. But at the same time, I get Amari Cooper concerns. You know what I mean?
I'm with you. I've got him the lowest of all, but he fits with these guys. I think we do need to add some young guys. And just for the record, Ian, I'm being very fair to Terry McLaurin. His 3-year targets per route run, 21%. I've got him projected for 22%, right? Because of the depth chart. And I've got him at an 86% route participation rate. Over the last 3 years, he's been at 83%. So I'm giving him above where he's been. So, and that's how he projects out where he does in the model. Like, so never has been no, not higher. He can that'll be in the range of outcomes. Remember, my goal is to help like set the model up for the median. So then it can project the ceilings and floors. And if you go look at Terry's ceiling, like it's nice. Like he has a solid ceiling. So I do think we have to add some young guys.
This is going to be like in 3 months. Like, why did Ian get fired from Fantasy Life? It's like, well, we actually hacked into Dwayne's computer just so he could increase Terry McLaurin's projection. So
just so you guys know, I do get random messages from Ian in Slack, which is our company messaging, how we send messages back and forth. What's funny is it'll be like on a Sunday night at like 11 p.m. and I'll wake up the next morning and it'll be like, some funny meme or something about Terry McLaurin. And it'll just be like, you got to get him higher. You got to get him higher. So, but we have a lot of fun with it. I do think, Kendall, we need to add some young. How many tiers do we have total? Just the 9 on the screen, or do we have another one?
Well, we can add more, but the question is, do we add more guys, younger guys, to this tier of Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, like Ladd McConkey, Jordan Tyson, Emeka Egbuka, Jamison Williams, Carnell Tate is there. Do you add more here, or do you guys want a tier break to tier 6?
So here's my thing. Ian wants aesthetically this pleasing.
Looks, I know
this looks great. But what I would say is there are multiple wide receivers that if we're actually creating tiers for the way you would draft that are younger than these guys that go in the same tier. Basically, these are the unks. They have the age question, but they, like you said, Kendall, they've ran pretty pure with their landing spots. But we have other younger guys that like we need to talk about with Emeka Egbuka, Jordan Tyson, Ladd McConkey, Romo Dunze potentially. Like those guys are all in this same range for me. And I would personally draft Jordan Tyson above most of the guys we have. Like I'm definitely taking Mike Evans first, but I would take Jordan Tyson in the same tier. And I'm taking Jordan Tyson over DJ Moore. I'm taking Jordan Tyson over Devontae Adams. I'm taking Jordan Tyson over Terry McLaurin as well.
Ian?
Way to just ruin the most aesthetically pleasing tier breakdown.
You can move it down. I just don't want people to think it is a tier break. Like it's not.
Because it's
like,
not.
From a draft
it's not.
standpoint. Yeah.
Hey,
Hey, I
don't
think
need
it's
to sell me on
look, Ian,
Jordan
we got all the
Tyson.
old guys together. We have that looks
Yeah,
good.
okay.
that
We got
looks
all the
good.
old guys
Look at that.
together.
That's perfect.
I'm cool having
Anyone
Tyson
else
there.
you would, yeah, anyone else you would
Yeah,
add,
go,
Ian,
Ian,
besides
sorry.
Tyson? I mean, you guys have kind of said it. McConkey, Egbuka, Tate, Odunze, like where would you go?
I would add all of them. Give me a couple Mike's Hard Lemonades, and I might even get Christian Watson in there. We'll see what happens. I mean, he looked fantastic last year. Less target competition as well. So looking at this group, all right, so my two takes here. Lab McConkey had a little bit of a down year, but why did he have the down year? Okay, there's the extra target competition with Keenan Allen coming into town. He's gone out of the picture now, and we got a potentially huge schematic upgrade in Mike McDaniel. We're just a little bit unsure about how the pecking order is going to be breaking out. But man, if we see, Ladd all of a sudden snap one, Dwayne, being that motion guy, getting those, deep digs that Tyreek Hill just made a living on, and all of a sudden Justin Herbert's throwing for 4,500 yards. Like, I do think that's in his range of outcomes. Like, trying to find that year 3 breakout wide receiver, the JSN of this year, just because Ladd had like a relatively down second season. That was just more, I think so, just based on the sky high expectations that we all had. So Ladd McConkey is someone who I definitely want to be trying to target in this range. And then Emeka Egbuka, man, it's one of those things where, like Kendall, if Emeka Egbuka's rookie season was done in reverse, if he did nothing the first 8 weeks and then he just balled out and was this wide receiver 1, during November and December, which I know happened because of the injury with Mike Evans and stuff, but that happens a lot with rookie wide receivers who they take off when the injuries happen later in the year. But like Kendall, where would he put Emeka Egbuka on this tier list if he again had his rookie year in reverse?
Will we not put him in tier 4? Like maybe in the middle of tier 4? If he had it in reverse and it's a what have you done for me lately league, Luther Burton's up there because the last handful of games he gave us during the fantasy playoffs. So if Emeka Egbuka was able to do that for the final 6 games of the season instead of the beginning 6 games, we'd be having a totally different conversation. And like Ian, to your point, this offense, like Baker Mayfield was not great. There was a lot going on and there's a lot resting on Emeka Egbuka's shoulders. But I think the answer is somewhere in the middle, Dwayne, when we talk about who he's going to be in his NFL career. He's still so young. They put a lot on him at the beginning. They missed Mike Evans. They were missing Chris Godwin. Baker Mayfield wasn't, as accurate of a guy as we've seen in the past. So I think he would have been, if answering your question, Ian, I think he would have been in tier 4 if he did that.
Yeah, and I think
I would be arguing for him to be right
Egbuka's
next to Olave and Garrett. Go Buckeyes.
Yeah, and if you just put Emeka Egbuka's whole rookie season into context, which is we do have all these games we could put together and actually grade him, like he easily fits in this tier. And Ian is correct. Like, I don't know why it's a boo. Like, I'm higher than you on Emeka Egbuka. And early on in the year, I thought you didn't like him. And then now I'm glad you're warming up. I knew the Ohio State bias would eventually kick in and I wouldn't. That's why I haven't argued with Ian a lot about this, is I kind of thought to myself, like, this is an Ohio State guy. Ian's going to move him up. Like, I just kind of got to wait for him to do it. But no, I think this fits. One last note on Ladd McConkey. The other big thing was the massive injuries to the Chargers offensive line. Basically, it was drop back, take your first read, and then Justin Herbert, run for your life. And if you look at Ladd McConkey's game, and I went back and watched a ton of his film, the dude was open, but he takes time to get open. He's not a pure speed guy. Like, he sets guys up. And he's not just this little underneath slot guy. Like, he gets open deep down the field, but there wasn't the time to get the ball to him. But if you guys go back and just watch, even the late games in the season, Ladd McConkey's getting open, but it's like Justin Herbert has already had pressure in his face for like half a second, right? And so that was the big issue. So I think this tier is really good. I think we can move to the next one. I do like getting Carnell Tate in there as well, though.
What are can we finish off with just Carnell Tate, your projections for him, Dwayne, in case people haven't looked at him? FantasyLife.com, again, is where all our rankings are, all the updated projections. But what is his Xfinity best? Like, what's his ceiling here with an offense that we hope is, again, getting better or taking a turn with Cam Ward, who did show flashes, wasn't necessarily amazing? Where do you have him in the projections?
Yeah, I'm pulling up the ceiling projection right now. But I know looking yesterday, because I just wrote an article on it, it was 13.1 in PPR. Let me pull up the half PPR for Tate. Oh, I gotta get enough things.
I put you on the
here.
spot. That's my bad.
No, you're okay. No, you're okay.
No.
Like, I just didn't have the tab open for it. But yeah, Carnell Tate, so if you look at his projections in a half PPR, it's 9.9 is his median projection, and his best projection is 11.9. But like, I'm also, again, like, I'm giving him a 20% target share in this offense, like, or it comes to like a 19%. He could easily outperform that. What I'm going with is historical round one wide receivers to kind of help set the baseline for these guys, but I could see easily moving him up. So I've got him at 21% targets per route run, and that comes to a 20% target share. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, it's still a good player and there's plenty of upside. And remember, guys, like those are the median ceilings and floors. Like if you look at like the outlier edges of the curve, like ceiling and floors for Carnell Tate, it's closer to 13.5 PPR. And with a rookie, like that is the type of player that's more likely to give us that because they can just surprise, because it's tougher to project some of the rookies. Like it can also go the other way. Like the lower end of the curve is also lower, but I like the fact that, you know, he lands in an offense where he should immediately. I have him at 90% route participation rate. So that's a full-time role. I think he's going to be on the field. We just need Cam Ward to take a step forward. Like that's really the biggest thing here. We just need Cam Ward to take a step forward. And that's a question mark.
All right, so it sounds like, Ian, we're going to the next tier. Sorry to ruin, the old guys, but we're still having fun with it aesthetically. Tier 6, and throwing some names out. Like you said, it sounds like Christian Watson might be at the front of this list for you, but Christian Watson, we still got Jamison Williams, DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton, Brian Thomas Jr., if he suits your fancy, both of the wide receivers for the Arizona Cardinals, and Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr. Who do you think starts off tier 6?
I would include basically that whole front line up until Michael Pittman. Sorry, bro, just don't have too much confidence in your offense. But you know what? Maybe he does, make things a little bit closer to DK. So maybe we could even include Pittman. But okay, I would like to start it with Christian Watson. Because, man, just everything he did coming back from that injury. We're going to talk about like good yards per out run numbers, Luther Burden truthers. Go check out what Christian Watson was doing last season, even with Jordan Love being out of the picture and being in this offensive situation, for several weeks where it's just like Malik Willis throwing go balls and Christian Watson, despite coming off that injury, looking like a complete freak out there. So, Dwayne and I obviously had our fun, very energetic, I would say, conversation about Jaden Reed. But I don't know, man, as much as everyone wants Matthew Golden like to be a thing, like just based on what we've seen, Christian Watson to me is the best wide receiver in Green Bay. He's had a good connection with Jordan Love, and now you take Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks out of the picture. I mean, Watson could be someone where honestly, like, I get there's some level of concern. Green Bay likes to run the football, and we do have other guys in the offense where they're going to be trying to get the ball to in the passing game. But like, what is really the difference between Christian Watson and guys like Tedero McMillan and Luther Burden, other than just the fact that they're the shiny new second-year players?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good offense that we have, projected for 2.7 touchdowns per game. That's 9th in the NFL, to Ian's point. A little bit more of a run balance kind of team. So we have them projected for right now with Green Bay 229 yards per game. But remember, that's 15th in the league. Passing is down across the NFL. And the teams that can run the ball are more efficient passing. And so ultimately, that's how Green Bay ends up 15th. Last year was like a 20-year low, 225 gross passing yards per game. We're on a downward trend right now. And Christian Watson, to Ian's point, like, I do like him. I'm gonna move him ahead of Jamison Williams in my ranks because Watson also has the chance to like dominate his offense, whereas we're not getting that with JMO. Now, the thing that JMO gets, right, is we've got Detroit projected for 261 passing yards per game, and that's second behind the Cowboys. Same tier as the Cowboys. Essentially, we've got the Lions, the Cowboys, and the Bengals, as well as the Rams on the top tier for passing yards per game, right? And those teams all rank highly in touchdowns as well. So JMO's going to get his stuff. But if one of these guys from this tier was to belong in the tier above, I think it is Christian Watson.
And Jordan Love, like if look at that, if we see Jordan Love, he was banged up last season too. He attempted the 7th fewest passes in the NFL. So it's one of those things where if we see more from him, obviously, like you guys said, they're not going to get away from the ground game with Josh Jacobs, but seeing more from Jordan Love and hoping that he kind of turns that corner a little bit with less target competition makes Christian Watson a really good guy to start this tier. I mean, so where's Cortland Sutton here? Because I would put Cortland Sutton above both Metcalf and Jamison Williams, even though I know that Jalen Waddle's in town. But where are you guys at? Ian, where are you at with Cortland Sutton? Because again, I know another year older, and he's just been he's been good. He's given one season with 1,000 yards and a top 20 fantasy finish. But if we're talking tier 6 with Jalen Waddle in town, do you think that he's going to just be phased out, or do you think it's going to be 1A, 1B situation with both those guys?
Hey, I think Sutton's still going to be the candidate to lead this team in receiving touchdowns and everything. Obviously, him and Bo Nix have developed good chemistry. We like the offense and everything, but I just think bringing in Waddle, Sutton's another year older, and he's just boring, guys. Has anyone ever clicked Courtland Sutton's name in a draft and been like, oh my God, let me take my shirt off and, start really having a fun time here? So look, I'm not even saying he doesn't belong here or anything, but just fantasy football is supposed to be fun, I think, at the end of the day, and projections be damned, Dwayne. I don't have much fun when I click Courtland Sutton.
No, I don't disagree. And that's why Courtland Sutton falls down drafts. Like, he's projected for far more points than where his current ADP is at on Underdog, for example. But the reason why is because people know that really the range of outcomes for Courtland Sutton is pretty narrow. He is what he is. And like, he needs the touchdowns, because if he doesn't get that, like, it could end up being, a miss. So he's one of these players. We know he has a role, like, unless like Pat Bryant were to push him for playing time. Like, Pat Bryant wasn't good, didn't show enough last year to, I think, forecast that kind of thing. So this is almost like, I really do think we should move Watson up a tier. And then this almost becomes like Metcalf and Sutton are kind of like eat your vegetables kind of pick. Like, no one wants to eat their vegetables. But sometimes, like, you may need it depending on how you built your fantasy roster. Both those guys project fine, but like, the ceilings are big question marks with both of them. And then with the other guys, it's like Brian Thomas Jr., the floor is a massive question. Like, this dude like disappeared from planet Earth last year. And they tried early in the year really to move him all over the formation, make him the centerpiece of the offense. And guess what? He wasn't up to the task. So they moved him back into a role just playing on the outside. But as a rookie, he was great. So, there's a ceiling that's still there for Brian Thomas Jr. Like, there's still a theoretical, ceiling. Like, this is a year 3 player. It's kind of like what Ian said for Ladd McConkey as well. Like, Brian Thomas Jr. is kind of similar to that. Like, had a good rookie season, not so good last year. So I think this is a good tier so far. Wilson and Harrison, like, Harrison, you're just continuing to bet on the draft capital here. I am curious on Ian's thoughts if he wants to move Harrison down to the next tier. But I do have Wilson and Harrison projected very closely together, and I have them ranked pretty closely together. I'm giving a slight nod to Wilson just because he played so well last year. But I will say Wilson was nothing before that. And so like he could go back to being nothing like that. And that scares me, a little bit with him early in the season, like with where he was going in drafts. Like he was one of the guys we were talking about. We're like, oh man, we're going to be higher on Michael Wilson than, than everyone else. And then like the market kind of pushed him up. So I'm curious on Ian's thoughts on Marvin Harrison Jr. I think the rest of this year is fine right now.
Hey, and as much as I will ride and die with my Buckeyes, I was one of the few people who actually did give credence to the idea that Malik Neighbors could be every bit as good as Marvin Harrison Jr. from day one. And I was pretty low on Emeka Ibuka last year. So that brings me to say, what the hell is wrong with Marvin Harrison Jr.? Have you guys ever seen a less physical 220-plus pound receiver out there? And we're already getting the Cardinals Twitter account again sending us his pictures of him looking jacked. Can we lose 10, 15 pounds, bro, and actually be able to run by someone? So it's one of these things where, he was highly rated for a reason. He's still only 23 years old. Yes, I understand. Maybe he got a little bit of a push because his dad was Marvin Harrison and all that. But just, man, at the one hand, I could see him all of a sudden balling and us going, oh, yeah, look, they were two bad Cardinals offenses. Kyler Murray really has never been on the same page with receivers, not named, DeAndre Hopkins, a couple years back. On the other hand, you watch Marvin Harrison Jr. last season, and it is some of the worst tape from an alleged number one receiver I think you're going to see. Seattle just bowling him time and time again. Mm-hmm. All right, he made Deron Bland fall down against the Cowboys, get in line, So it's just one of these things where other than the draft capital, other than what happened at this point 3 and 4 years ago, I don't know how you can get behind Marvin Harrison Jr. Again, Dwayne, we said it, kind of in November when Michael Wilson was starting to take off. Like, if we took an alien who had never watched football before and we just showed them every single route and target that Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. would have, they would say Michael Wilson's a better football player because he's been a better football player.
Yep, he definitely was last year. Michael Wilson before that had really done nothing, but the latest season we have is, and that's what makes it so tough. I'm actually fine leaving Marvin Harrison Jr. in this tier. Like, we're in to eat your vegetables or you have big question marks, right, with these players. And if we're doing that, Parker Washington goes in this tier.
Yep.
The big concern for me with the Jaguars, well, first of all, Parker Washington was the best receiver on the Jaguars last year. Just put him at the end for now, Kendall, and then we can talk about where he goes. He honestly kind of looked like Amon-Ra St. Brown watching him play. He just really showed a whole nother level to his game, but similar to Michael Wilson, had not really done much before that in his career. It's not like he was a great prospect, in the model or anything. So it's like he had this really good half of football. My other thing with the Jags is they clearly want to run more of the heavy personnel stuff. And we already have 3 guys battling, for playing time with Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington, and Brian Thomas Jr. If they start using, and they took Bo Kirker, right? Or am I saying that right, Kendall, from draft night? They took him in round 2 and shocked the world. And then Gladstone afterwards basically just said, yeah, we're buying into the trend of using these, bigger tight end personnel groups. The Jaguars are projected for a decent amount of wins in Friedman's model. So there is a squeeze here, because if these guys all start rotating, and that's what creates the questions, so I had to move Parker. I'd move all the Jaguars routes down as far as the wide receivers go, because they could rotate and they could use more of the heavy tight end stuff. So question marks, but Parker Washington was really good last year in the second half of the year. Yeah. So I think he belongs here. Ian, anybody else that we're missing from the tier? Do you think Jordan Addison goes in this tier?
Ooh, yes.
Another good football player.
He's like, yes. Okay.
Jordan Addison's a baller. When you watch Jordan Addison, he cooks
I'm
guys
not disagreeing.
Medium, deep, but he's got Justin Jefferson. The main reason Jordan Addison's so far down the ranks, it could be a hangover of just how bad the Vikings offense was last year. If the Vikings offense is good, right, he is like a JMO. He is the guy that can get an 18 to 20% target share and a good offense, and he could still come up with over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. So honestly, just thinking through it, Addison may belong above some of these other guys, Ian. And I'm also fine if Ian wants to move Parker Washington above. I was just trying to kind of finish the convo as to why I thought there were questions.
Our most recent solid sample size with these Jaguars wide receivers, Parker Washington was taken over, balling #1 target. I feel like he should go ahead of BTJ. And to me, and again, it's one of these things, and I'm going to try to avoid just talking about it all off season. I will sit down and actually run the numbers at some point. But I do think there's a difference between Parker's second half takeover and BTJ's on a dead team with an offense that was missing guys and even had their backup quarterback. Parker was doing this into the playoffs, as this offense was gelling under Liam Cohen, even with Jacoby Myers in town. So I do think he deserves to be the front runner. But
and he was their best receiver in the playoffs too. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, but could it be kind of like a 20 Bears scenario where 4 guys have between 600 and 800 yards? That's also on the table. But Jordan Addison, okay. Other than driving a car, this dude is just fantastic with everything we have seen, all right? He's still only 24 years old, all right? He's still only 24. Yes, last season sucked, but look where we got Justin Jefferson. We're giving him a pass for it, so why shouldn't Addison be getting it? Clear-cut #2 in an offense that we still believe in and can believe in them ascending. And just, again, last year with everything going on, off the field to begin, and then maybe some lingering injuries here and there, I'm willing to give him mostly a pass for it. So do believe, again, silky, just double move artist. I think there's a lot of similarities between him and a younger Calvin Ridley and everything he was able to do. So, if we do get KOC engineering this Vikings offense back to the point where we're getting, 4,200 yards and 30 touchdowns, but man, if he sneaks into the top 24, wouldn't be shocking to me.
Quarterback whisperer Kevin O'Connell. Yeah, of course.
Ian, I'm going to give Ian his one more name. Does Jaden Reed go in this tier?
No.
Yes.
I don't think so.
No?
Why, Kendall? Why?
I'm just if you don't like Matt Golden and you think it's just going to be Christian Watson who has an injury history and they went ahead and I'm following the money a little bit to pay Jaden Reed, I do think he's going to obviously have way more targets with both Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks out of here. If, again, like I said before, Jordan Love gets a little bit more than the 7th fewest pass attempts in the NFL, I think Jaden Reed at least belongs here. Maybe not I understand pushing Addison up a little bit, but I don't think he belongs in tier 7. What?
You know how you win this argument with Ian? You just anything he says, as soon as he starts to say the sentence, just go, he's a baller. Can we just agree this is a good football player? Can we not have good football players in our tier?
Ian.
That's all you have to do, Kendall.
Dwayne's bringing up,
he does it
Dwayne's
to me,
up some pretty good points.
He can't.
That's what convinced you.
I think, okay,
so finishing.
Tier. Yeah. 40, I'm 41. Kendall, you're 39. we probably all need to move him up a little bit. Like, but I'm with you on everything you said, Kendall. Got paid. 2 guys are gone. Matthew Golden wasn't good as a rookie. It is a good offense that we think is going to score a lot of touchdowns. And so essentially, like, maybe paying a little more by putting him in this tier. But essentially the worst case scenario you get is like a boom bust wide receiver 4. If he does end up in a larger role, he can end up being a wide receiver 2. And I think that's why he fits in this tier to me.
Ian
Are we
hates
talking
it.
about
I can see it in his face.
Jaden Reed or Josh Downs? Get him in there too then.
Where is he?
Yeah.
Dwayne, what do you think? Josh Downs?
Low.
I mean, because, well, Alec Pierce still here, though. Josh Downs ahead of Alec Pierce, Ian, in this tier?
I don't love the fact that Alec Pierce apparently had an ankle procedure that's going to keep him out for 3 months in April. Yeah. That kind of got swept under the rug. So, look, I think the answer in Indy could just be Tyler Warren eating up everything, which is why he's a major, priority for me, especially, with the difference between him and Colston Loveland. I don't think that exactly adds up. But I just think, and that's kind of why I wanted these guys in next tier. We have a big group of slot receivers next I think makes sense together. We have Josh Downs, Chris Godwin, Jaden Reed, Jacoby Myers, Michael Pittman, Ricky Pearsall. Like, I think these are all guys who pretty clearly we don't expect to lead their offense in targets. Could it happen? Like, okay, I guess there is a world, and, I think they're good clicks and everything. But Wan'Dale Robinson here as well. Like, again, aesthetically speaking, Kendall, I think we have a nice group of slot receivers that can make for a nice tier 7.
Dwayne, what do you think? Downs, and then what? Who'd you say, Ian?
I can't. Yeah, I don't want to put Downs in the tier above, even though I do like him. And very early on in the offseason, when Ian and I were chatting and we were on a show, we were both on the same page. Like, not gonna be surprised at all if Downs leads this team, in targets. So, I think it's in the range of outcomes. I just have slightly more questions about his offense. The Packers have been a stable offense for multiple years. The Colts had a good year last year. So that would be my big question, with Downs. But yeah, so I mean, if we're looking at the rest of this tier, look at Kendall. She's not budging in. She says Jaden Reed's a baller, and there's nothing you can do about it. She's leaving him in that tier.
I'm keeping him up there.
It's okay.
I do agree with Ian. Like Chris Godwin, I think he's slightly underrated right now. I mean, just 2 years ago to start the year, he was like a top 6 wide receiver, and he's been a really good wide receiver multiple times in his career. We've got Mike Evans gone from the picture. Will Jalen McMillan or Ted Hurst be able to come in and challenge for targets? Maybe, or they could just be vertical threats. And this is the Igbuka and Godwin show, right? And at least Baker's shown the ability to support multiple weapons. So I think he belongs in here. I think then you're probably looking at Mekhi Lemon belongs in this tier.
Close to here too. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm lower on Pierce. I'm fine putting him in. I'm a little lower on Pierce, but I'm fine with him in this tier. I think Alec Pierce is really good at what he does. He's a big play threat. He's in a perfect designed offense for that. They run heavy formations. They can hit him down the field. The question is can he develop into being more than just a deep threat? Because if you don't, you're just a super high variance player, and those are usually wide receiver 4s, right? Which we're getting into that territory now anyway. We're in the wide receiver 4 territory. So I think Lemon, Pierce is fine here. Ian, any other names standing out to you?
6. How about this, Ian? 6. Let's do 6 more, because that would cut us off at 48. So these are our top 48 receivers, 6 more players, however you want to tier them, Ian. But where would you go next in this tier 7 if we have 6 more?
I think Pittman should be next to Godwin. I think that same kind of thought process with, maybe Godwin actually ends up being 1A, 1B. I think that could very well happen. I think it honestly will happen in Pittsburgh between DK and Pittman. Even if Old Man Rodgers is back, there's a world where Pittman just kind of has that more underneath role. And as we know, 43-year-olds playing quarterback, they kind of want to get the ball out of their hands as quick as possible. So I think pure target-based, Wan'Dale Robinson deserves here in the slot. I would like to think they're going to force feed Carnell Tate, but 140 targets in back-to-back years, and now his play caller is there in Tennessee. Tough to have him too low. Jacoby Myers did some very good things, again, in Jacksonville. Another one of those guys where Dwayne and I have spent a lot of time, defending Jacoby over the years, albeit not the most exciting click in the world, but tough to, again, have too much of an issue with his projections, and we like the offense. It wouldn't be the most shocking thing if Jacoby's the number 1 guy in Jacksonville.
Yeah, Myers and Pittman, they're like the eat your vegetables guys of this tier. And Pittman's going pick 105 in underdog drafts. I get it, guys. The ceiling may not be there, but if you draft Michael Pittman in that range, he's gonna hit your starting lineup in best ball multiple times. Like I get it. He's not gonna score 20 fantasy points per game, but like you could easily score 12 half PPR points per game. Like, and you get 5 or 6 usable games out of that in best ball. Like I get it. I understand the argument around Pittman not like being this like, you know, total package receiver, but like Ian says, he's a good possession receiver that can earn targets and he can be usable. I would throw the other 2 rookies in here, Kendall. They're not on good offenses. Yep. No, we have to go a tier below Lemon. We have to go a tier below Lemon with these 2 guys. I think Concepcion and Omar Cooper Jr. in there. Yeah.
Those would be our final 2.
What do you want to do with Pierre? Is that the final?
It can be. We can switch it up. This would make it though, just so people know, this would be our top 48. Yes, this would be our top 48 with Casey Concepcion, Omar Cooper being at the end. It looks like we cleared out tier 7, but I like your point, Dwayne, with Casey Concepcion. Not necessarily a great offense, but we're not believing in Jerry Jeudy. Harold Fannon's still there that we like. Who were the other? Who else were you looking at? Just add quickly.
Well, I think I was going to ask Ian about
top 50. Definitely sings. Just saying.
Okay.
Top 50 is provocative.
Tell it to producer swing. Perfect.
I was going to ask Ian about Pearsall. Like we know they added Stribling, so I took Pearsall's routes down a little bit, but like I still have him as the wide receiver 2 in the 49ers offense. There's Romeo Dobbs, which, you know, we know AJ Brown's going there. We've got who else? I'm just scrolling our top 50.
Quentin Johnston, Denzel Boston, Khalil Shakir,
Quentin Johnston. Jennings. Yeah. Okay. I think we should have Ricky Pearsall and Quentin Johnston at the end of tier 7. QJ's done some good things. And honestly, I do wonder if Mike McDaniel brings in this offense where he almost takes the thinking away from QJ to the point that, man, like it could really work out well. Like
he's
QJ's
a good
never
player.
been a doubt of what he can do. That's what I'm saying. Offense. So like, I think Ladd is going to be the guy getting more targets, but if they just find a way to get Quentin Johnston the ball, man, it could be a lot of fun. Ricky Pearsall, okay. He's been banged up, which sucks, but I wouldn't necessarily say that him getting literally shot makes him more injury prone than some of these other guys. You know, he had soft tissue issues last year, so I know it's not just that injury, but
in college.
Here's the case for Ricky. He still projects as the number 2 wide receiver in the NFL's most efficient passing game of the last half decade, pretty much. So we have that going for him. I do believe eye test. He's a very smooth, crispy route runner who was doing some huge things with both Purdy and Mac Jones again before some of the injuries got going. And there are a lot of outs here. Okay. I think if everyone in San Francisco stays healthy, we're probably looking at, something around a wide receiver 50 finish for Ricky, but Mike Evans, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. This is an old football team. I actually ran the numbers earlier. The second oldest football team in the NFL is the San Francisco 49ers. Congrats, Commanders fans. You guys have the most, geriatric football players in the NFL. So I just think Ricky, man, it's tough to rank him too much higher. I understand. We got Stribling there now. We got Evans, but he is someone where, if 33-year-old Mike Evans gets hurt, Ricky Pearsall could immediately be like in the top 24 conversation. And I kind of like that range of outcomes for a guy that we can get this late.
Yeah, I'm good with both those guys. I'm good.
Perfect.
No, I'm good.
Perfect.
Like I think like Pearsall's shown flashes. We would like to see more. I do like the top 50. Do we have 50 in here now?
Right. We do have 50 in here now. And is it aesthetically pleasing? Ian, are you good? You good with it? Casey Concepcion, Omar Cooper running around at tier 8, and then we're done?
I don't think we need them necessarily in tier 8. Like I think Casey and Cooper, is Lemon in that much of a better situation? I don't think he probably projects for more targets. We just respect to Jalen Hurts for coming up in big games, but
we trust the Eagles more as an organization than the other 2, and the other 2 could have a dumpster fire by the end of the year at quarterback. I'm fine if you want to put them in 7, but I think they're also fine in 8.
Well, I already exited out of it.
Kendall, though. Where's your guy? Where's Jalen Naylor? How we talk through 55 wide receivers?
What are we talking about here, Ian? Get out of here. I drafted Jalen Naylor one time. One time I drafted Jalen Naylor, who I thought was a great pick at the end, to be totally honest with you. If we're going to say last fantasy picks, this is rage bait. I know it is. Ian Hartitz, Dwain McFarland, Kendall Valenzuela. You can find all of our rankings at fantasylife.com. All those projections as well, updated weekly. So make sure you guys go and check those out. While you're there, I'll always say it. Subscribe to that newsletter. 100% free in your inbox 7 days a week, because fantasy football never sleeps. We're getting you ready for those drafts, those dynasty drafts. We will see you here next time.